If you think about the product and the velocity the AI enables you to go with, then the distinction from the product to technical becomes a little bit fuzzy. If you can really imagine your software and maybe rethink it differently technically or add other product features and so on and so forth and see how it impacts the architecture or what you might need, then both should be at play, or many of them, or maybe just one if you really want the AI to fill out, our agents to fill out the gaps.
It's hard to question a process that you've perfected or become expert at, but that's precisely what Zbigniew is arguing for. Engineers who've built e-commerce platforms will default to e-commerce platforms, or teams that know React will reach for React. Zbigniew argues for the elimination of these constraints.
Why not spend $5 on research that the team is going to have to do something for months or not, depending on whether we found the right library that's already available or things like that, just because no one had the time to do it in any other way. So I think, again, it speaks back to the whole workflow and how now it should not be disjointed from, say, product people to engineers.
And this is what experience used to solve for. An early mistake in the architecture or framework that would create technical debt that would compound. This drove the demand for technical experience, not just to build, but to build right. On the face of it, it would seem that AI solves exactly this problem, and a lot better, and broadly for free. But in practice, can you really replace that skill? Who writes the prompt? Who evaluates its output? Who makes that final decision on trade-offs?
So if you have a rough idea of what you want to build, maybe you don't have any tech experience, you can actually flesh it out very well and maybe show someone who does, just to take a look if that's what it makes sense to build, work with the AI a little bit and see the actual software before it's being built. With AI, I know exactly what I want and I can, see a good code when I see it. So it enables me to also contribute to the team. We think about the agents having just different specialties, different system prompts, right? If you want to be very specific about how your user stories or user journeys might look like, then you actually need an agent that has that knowledge or your preferences understood and works in, let's say, the product domain. But if you're interested in tech stuff, you don't care about any of those product things there in terms of creating them, right? Or if you're doing research. So we're thinking about those agents being, let's say, specialists that you would have on your team. Shotgun is a terminal tool, so you run it on a terminal. And what I've asked it just a while ago is to build a product specification for my new startup, Airbnb-for-pet-sitting. So even if you don't have like specifics, or you might have them upfront, it goes through and works through the product overview, the personas, if you want, and so on and so forth. Now, how it looks like when it comes out is this. So hope you can see my screen again. Just from that thing, it generated, just from my basic request, it generated product vision, problem statement. Obviously, I can give any feedback I want. If something is off, if I want to say, I want to start with Berlin, and that's my starting tiki, for example. So it tries to, on a high level, figure out what that overview would look like. And then I can work through different product artifacts like personas and so on and so forth. So it's, done according to the best product practices that we also researched. And we will be giving users any way they need to for this to look differently. But anytime they see something that's not right, they can say, okay, let's change this, let's change that. If you add persona, the user stories will be changed, so they are adjusted for you. And we have also visual artifacts here. So here are the user journeys also asked to generate that you can also feedback, share, and so on and so forth, not to mention actually going into technical architecture, the MVP features. So this is something that you would normally work for a while with. I just accepted what the agent was suggesting. So I provided no feedback, but I could also say like, hey, architecture that you designed here for me with push notifications and whatever, I don't want it. Like maybe I want something simpler. Or I could say, hey, that sounds good. Let's research 3 best databases for this particular project. When you think about it, especially from time compression perspective, let's say how the implementation side changes, then we actually have the luxury to focus on the things that matter, to maybe explore different frameworks, to maybe figure out what's the best approach from 3 available, and not just rely on, well, one of the guy in the team used that before and it worked. And since we are crunch for time, there's nothing else to research.
The typical constraints that used to define software teams, size, experience, roles, or locations, these are all dissolving. A company's ability to expand its capabilities is only limited by its ability to manage the resulting AI complexity. And that's a real thing. The practical implications? Maybe stop hiring for skills and start hiring for judgment or management. The knowledge is commoditized. The ability to synthesize that knowledge, decide, direct it, that doesn't seem to have gone anywhere. In fact, it feels like that is the new experience.